Welcome everyone. How we doing, man?
Awesome.
Let me know, producer.
I think we're good, bro.
Delay? We got the delay. We good?
Yeah.
All right, man. So tonight's topic, you see it on the screen, and it is what are you willing to risk to go to work? Right now, we have a lot of things going on in this country. Got a little feedback, Ty, but we're good.
Okay.
I got my
Take care of it.
Producer and co-host, Ty Jones.
Hey, what's going on, fellas? Everybody. We're going to have a great show tonight. I'm super excited. Yes, sir.
I got feedback from somebody.
You got feedback? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear.
And I know Leland. We used to work together a
Yeah.
long time ago.
Yeah. We used to say those cubicles and
The island.
Yeah. Are you still at the same company?
No.
Okay, all right, yeah. This company, Iron Mountain, who's selling a super duper boring product. But it was stable money, you know, kind of.
Yeah, I learned a lot. It taught me a whole lot.
Yeah. It was I mean I bought my first house through that company.
Right. Yeah. I did a lot through them, but yeah, that's over with.
Right. So what are you doing now?
I work in purchasing in a medical device company.
Okay.
So I work with different vendors all day long. I know Leland. We source products and get things made and get them in and make sure that we have everything we need to do what we have to do every day.
Okay. And I'm going to introduce. How about? Oh, okay. We have Nuke. Is that name right?
Yeah. My full name is actually Tanuka.
Okay. Yeah. Can you introduce yourself? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm Tanuka. Live in Lee, and I'm a teacher. I work in education.
Okay. Can you guys hear feedback?
I did on Nuke.
Okay. I'm hearing something like
that. There's a feed.
Oh, I think I know Is everyone muted or am I just muted?
No, I'm muted, but is there, you guys are hearing the feedback?
Yeah, I was.
I don't hear feedback.
No?
I don't anymore.
You, okay, all right. Okay, I think I fixed it. All right. So, again, I'm sorry. Can you introduce yourself and your name one more time? It's Nuke?
Yeah, you got it. Nuke. Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. And you're a teacher. What do you teach?
I teach, well, this past English, and this fall I'm going to be teaching social studies, and it's going to be at the middle school level.
Okay.
Sometimes teachers move around a little bit.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to get right to it. Donald Trump today, he's talking about he's going to strip funding from public schools if they don't open this fall. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think that there's schools. I know there's funding at the state level as well. So I think we would have to look to leadership within the state and within the city of Philadelphia in regard to supplemental funding. As we know, a significant amount of funding that's needed from public schools has to come from taxpayers, whether it be within the neighborhood, the city, or businesses and what have you. So I think a lot of parents as well will be really frustrated with that, where there's already a lack and an extreme need of funding, we'll have further funding pulled. So for me, I'm definitely to hear that funding would be pulled from schools, but I know that states might be able to move things around, but there's only so much that a state can do.
So as far as the risk, I mean, the title of the show is "What Are You Willing to Risk to Go to Work?" But it seems like as a country, we're willing to risk our children.
I mean, I know I did a poll today. It's on my Instagram. I just did a general poll across the people who are in my community, most of whom are in Philly, but some of whom are in Cali and different countries as well. And 95% of the people I asked their children back to school. That's just specifically within my group, but I do engage with a pretty diverse group of people who are a wide range of ages. Gave me a feeling that it would be very risky. For example, in one day, say you teach high school, I was in high school in March, and in one day, students will be in maybe like 8 classrooms or what have you, switch classes 6 times or something like that. And so it's like, even if someone is in contact with someone with COVID, there's no way to really have them either remain in one space, especially in high school. And the other side of things is the way that these schools are structured. Some buildings have additional rooms, some buildings do not. So it's not necessarily possible to do the whole 6 feet of space thing that we'd like to do. I know the district is working really, really hard to come up with a solution, and I work in the Philadelphia school district. And there's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of conversation happening between teachers and families, but ultimately, the thought of risking their children's safety, I know a lot of parents are not here for it, and I know a lot of teachers as well are very concerned. But the argument is there are parents who are like, well, I'm not going to be able to think about additional childcare. I have to work. I have no choice because I have to go back. So in the fall, my kids probably have to be either in a building that's very, 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 very safe, or learning in an environment where maybe they go in the morning and do a daycare thing in the afternoon. So
yeah.
A lot to think about.
Right. Ashley, what do you think? I know you have a daughter, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm one of the lucky people doing all this. Like, I've still been working. My kid has thrived with being like doing the homeschool thing. She realized if I do my work in the first 2 days, I don't have to worry about it for the week, and that worked for her. And she did well. She's also 11, so like there's only one. She's 11 years old. She's pretty self-sufficient herself. So like for me, I have no intention of sending her back. They can't keep kids 6 feet apart and off of each other and not touching each other when there's not something crazy going on. Kids are just as anxious about everything that's going on as us. And a lot of times, a lot of these kids don't even have anybody to talk to about it, you know? Like, my kid knows I encourage her to watch news and see what's going on so she can make her own decisions. But we talk about it. You know, she's telling me she has friends who just know that there's something crazy going on and we might not go to school. So how do you expect kids who really aren't fully aware of what's going on and how not wearing their mask or going in someone's space, you know, just because they're 10 years old and they're full of energy and they're in school finally after not seeing their friends for 6 months, like, do we really expect that they're going to be able to do this? And then, like, I know there's a lot of teachers who are also married to teachers who teach at different schools. So what if my kid's teacher is teaching his class of 30 kids, one of them has it, now they're all exposed, he's exposed, he goes home, his wife is exposed, she goes to work. You know, that whole school, that's a completely different school. Now you have a district with half the school out because one kid was possibly asymptomatic or had a cough and now everyone has it. Like, to me, that, like, my child's health, even the other kid's health, she could be asymptomatic and have no idea. And, you know, she forgot to put her mask up when she went to the pencil sharpener or whatever. You know, like, that risk just isn't worth it to me. Like, I think it's ridiculous that we're trying to force these kids to go back to school and expect them to follow guidelines that we have adults who can't even follow. You know, these are kids. They're going to be excited to see their friends. They're going to be excited just to be out of the house and away from their parents. And we think they're just going to, like, go and just follow, you know, stay in a single line, stay 6 feet apart. And a lot of these schools are overcrowded. Where are you going to put 6 feet apart? So you're going to shift them. You're going to split them up across days, but the same teacher's going to be there every day. So if kid on Monday has something, the teacher gets it, doesn't know, talks to a kid on Tuesday, you know, like, you're, either way, you're like, I don't know, just, I don't see how it's going to work. I don't feel like we should be testing it on the kids. And, like, I also understand the other part is some parents don't have an option. They have to go to work. You know, parents stop going to work, bills stop getting paid, and now you have even more homelessness going on. You know, like, it's just and, like, even though landlords can't kick you out right now, they're filing the paperwork. They're waiting for the courts to open so they can get you out and get someone who has some money. You know, and then you expect kids to be going to school when everything starts to open back up and now all of a sudden they're homeless. You think they're going to pay attention? You know, like, there's just so many factors that go into this. And it's just like, some people can afford to put their kids in private school or have the internet so that their kids can do charter school online and things like that. But there's a large chunk of kids, at least I know where I'm from, and in Philly, that they don't have those options. You know, they're fending for themselves as it is. So school in the fall, in some capacity, I understand has to happen, but I'm not sending my kid to school. But I'm also blessed enough and lucky enough that that's even an option for me, you know, because there's parents that don't have that option.
Right. Yeah. You got a comfortable home, you got internet.
Right. My kid doesn't need for anything, but she has kids in her class that need for a pencil. You know what I'm saying? So, like, how do you expect them to excel at home when, you know, their parents are at work all day trying to work, or their parents aren't there? They live with grandparents who don't even know how to work the tablet. You know, like, there's just so many factors, and, like, there's so many crazy factors, but, like, the fact that they could die going to school, for me, that's just, like, you don't know. It's very cut and dry. Yeah, like, I just... Yeah, that's just mine. I mean, as a parent, I feel very deeply about this. Like, you want me to send my kid back in there? And then, like, the teachers, like, they do enough. I can't even, like, my teachers for my kid were so good during all this. Like, you really want to throw them in there and hope that these snotty kids don't sneeze on them? Like, you know, like, kids just don't, they're kids. We can't get adults to follow the simple rules, or you want children to do it. You want a 6-year-old in kindergarten who just got to school to keep his mask on.
You have a president in the very beginning that didn't want to follow the rules.
Right.
You know, we have a chief of staff that didn't want to follow the rules. So what do you expect? What do you expect the public to do? How do you expect the public to respond? You know, but as parents, I know I have an 11-year-old daughter, and I have my boys are 6. You know, I twin boys. So, you know, I ask myself, what do we do? So I ask a fellow parent, a fellow mother, teacher, you know, what do we do to make sure that they continue their education? What do you think some options are for them so we're not putting everything at risk as far as health, life, and death, and putting our children at risk? What do you think that we do?
That's either one of you can answer.
I guess there are a good amount of resources that teachers have to use in order to remain on top of newer teaching practices. And usually things of that nature are talked about in professional development and in teacher meetings and online resources, if in the event that students are required to stay home, as an educator, my hope would be that the resources that we have access to, for example, when I'm planning my lessons, I look at a resource called IXL, and it's literally the letter I, and then the letter X and the letter L. And when I'm looking at that, it gives me like a breakdown of lessons, ways to check things, and it goes by the grade level. So teachers have a wide array of resources to support our lessons on top of what we're using in our classroom. If I'm using wit and wisdom, and that's what I've used in the past, teach a particular lesson to my students, then I can supplement that with IXL online. So it's like my hope would be, say parents are at home and they're having a tough time explaining factoring equations because they're teaching their kids 7th grade math. My thing would say, okay, well, teachers have these resources. Maybe the same resources can be shared with the parents and those who are in the place of support for the students. But the other side of things is that there are some students who desperately need the support of a specialist, like a special education teacher or a reading specialist or someone who is further trained to work with a child who has more advanced learning needs. So it's like when parents are juggling a job, parents might potentially have multiple kids. There are a whole bunch of different factors. Helping a parent who might have gotten ill, what have you. It becomes a lot for the parent to do because teachers already do 1,000 things in a week. And so some of my friends are teachers and parents at the same time, and they're in the position that I'm explaining, knowing the resources that are available to them, but also having to teach their own kids. Like one of my good friends, both her kids are under 5. And so it's like, how do you manage doing all of these things? So my hope would be that the resources that teachers have, the digital ones that are accessible and easily comprehended, would be the ones that are also parents.
So what do you plan to do, when this happens? If Philadelphia school district says, hey, it's time to go to school, how do you feel about that?
Well, to be honest, yesterday an announcement was shared across the news.
Okay. Oh, okay. Breaking news.
At least, breaking news on NBC. They announced that Philadelphia school district students would be potentially going back into the buildings. Now, just a ballpark figure, about 200,000 students are in the Philadelphia school district and about 19,000 teachers. So that's a lot of people to be around one another. It's the 8th largest school district of urban areas across the U.S. So my thing is, like, when it was announced yesterday, I just reached out to my friends, like, hey, how do you all feel? In the past 24 hours, I've talked to 4 of my teacher friends, and a lot of them are, like, really concerned because on one hand, we're always thinking about the well-being of our students, but then on the other hand, it's like we have to think of the well-being of us as teachers, because if we as teachers are sick, plain example, for example, someone's sick and you need 14 days to either quarantine or recover or, heaven forbid, hospital time, you then need to call a substitute teacher to cover those 14 days for you, which means you need to have planned backwards lesson plans for 2 to 3 weeks. And it's like the nature of the planning that needs to happen in case anyone does get sick is pretty extensive. It's feasible and it's possible, but it will take a lot of planning. And so when they announced this yesterday, there was a lot of nervousness among my teacher friends, but we're all trying to stay in conversation with each other and really think about logistically, okay, we need to be in the buildings, and the plan said, okay, they sanitize the buildings every 4 hours. They'll have desks 6 feet apart. If need be, they'll move into other rooms and other spaces, but our schools are already at capacity in food. And I know, not capacity, but our buildings are in need of a lot of things. And thinking about the funding that's being pulled from schools, it is a great concern for me, because a lot of times we have water fountains that aren't working properly. So if our water fountains weren't working well, how will we make a sanitation station for kids to wash their hands between every other class. You know, if there are buildings that still have old material like asbestos where some teachers are getting ill, how will we know that this additional threat won't cause more problems? So we will see how it unfolds. Any plan as well that's been shared has also been shared with the notice that it can change tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so the announcement was made on NBC, hey, Philly, we're going back to school. But at the same time, the superintendent of schools and the team were like, hey, this is subject to change. So we're all taking the information and planning as best as we can, but we're also very prepared to wake up and read a headline that said, we said you were going back to schools, but actually you'll be staying home. So we have to prepare for everything.
Yeah, it's been over 16 years since I was in school, high school, and I can remember even then reaching under the desk was disgusting.
My God.
That was asking for a disease back then.
What?
Listen, gum and just all that. So we asking kids to move the desk. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. Unless, we just telling everyone, hey, free for all, we just gonna have to build more hospitals. I don't know.
That was my kid.
Yeah. Right. That's what this sounds like. Like, hey, we just wanna sacrifice these kids for the sake of the economy so people can work for them.
Literally.
But the
for the
other
sake of
thing
money.
to think about, and the other thing to think about is like there are a lot of people whose parents work in different capacities in the school. Like my heart has always been with the people who were there till 6:00 p.m. who got there at 6 a.m. to either make sure the cafeteria is spick and span or make sure the door handles are wiped down. And it's like the people who maintain the building and the building engineers who are there before and after everybody leaves will have to see the brunt of this essentially, because if they're the ones that are in charge of maintaining these strict guidelines of cleanliness, then what happens to them? What if one of them gets sick? Like our schools are already overextended, so one of them gets sick for a school that has 800 kids, like then what's going to happen? Or even a school that has 2,000, because these schools are pretty big. But my concern is that, like, when you think about the chain of who helps whom, and you go all the way back to the thought of, okay, we need to maintain a clean space. Well, who is in charge of that? Like the maintenance team. Right. So it's like that could be a huge strain for them, and that's somebody's parent. That's somebody's uncle, that's somebody's cousin. So it's like, I think about that first, in addition to the students, of course, but I think about them because I'm like, wow, that's a lot of work to do. It's a lot of work to maintain. On top of the gum under the desks and the writing all over the bathroom mirror.
Yeah.
Spilled chocolate milk. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot.
I mean, just taking your kids to school, especially young kids, you just know, okay, I'm probably getting sick in the fall time.
Listen, as soon as school starts, you got snotty noses and allergies and that weird cough, and now you get a weird cough, and it's, we gotta take you to the doctor and get a test. And,
Corona.
You can't go anywhere. You're in the house for 14 days just because of a little too big.
Coronavirus.
Yeah, crazy. They want us to just sit our kids in like a petri dish, like. Plus, you have to think about it too. Like, everybody's not taking the same precautions. So just because at school a kid is wearing his mask, what does that matter when he goes out to the grocery store and he's touching everything and getting breathed on by all these people and being a kid and crawling on the floor or whatever else? Kids are just kids, regardless of what's going on in the world. And and then you're like, oh, let's just throw them all back in there.
It's unreal. It's unreal. You in today's world, especially in Philadelphia, where I'm from, and other areas like that, you have kids raising kids. You got kids raising themselves. So to expect them to handle something of such magnitude with responsibility and the know-how, they don't even know how to wash clothes properly. They don't know how to take care of themselves and make a proper meal. So how do you expect them to not only take care of themselves, but be responsible enough to take care of their neighbor or the person that they sit next to at the desk? Right. So what you're just asking, what you're doing is you're asking for a wildfire, and you're asking for it. You know, by putting these kids in this environment, there's no way that they can properly handle everything that's required of them because, you know, be honest, I have a hard time. You know, sometimes you get out the car like, oh snap, I forgot to put my mask on. You know what I mean? I got to run back to the car and put my mask on, or you know, I don't
it's
touch
new for
something.
all of us. Like, it's a new way of life.
It's just a new way of life.
It's hard for the adults, you know, and like you said, like you get to a certain point, like you've been inside for so long, like they're kids. Like all I keep thinking is like they're kids. Like we've seen kids who literally 1 second they're perfectly fine, and the next second they're on the floor crying because they're stressed out about something, and then you're gonna send them. And then on top of it, like you can't expect the teachers not to be anxious and be nervous and, you know, adjusting the way they are. And kids feed off of their teachers. That's just the reality of it. They feed off of the adult that they're with at the time. So, you know, they go to school and they see their teacher with the mask, and the teacher that usually hugs them says, no, you can't hug me yet. You can't do that. You just have to sit here and don't move. Like, I just feel like we're asking so much of the teachers, the whole build, like we've said, the building staff, the building engineers, the kids, like,
the school nurses.
The school
Oh
nurses.
man,
like,
that's crazy.
Kid that, if I was a teacher, if you cough, I'm sending you out. You need to go. But like, you just don't know. It's just, I get that you want, you know, the kids back in school, and I feel like a large chunk of them wanting the kids back in school is strictly so they can get people back to work. You know, but the kids have to learn. There just has to be some type of option or, I don't know, something. Like, there's just so many things you keep hearing, but it's like, what's going to work? And what works in Philly may not work in Wisconsin, and may not work in Cali. You know, like, I don't feel like there's also one way to do this. And, like, it's already July.
So talking to some family that lives in Florida, in the Florida region, they have, like, especially with the e-learning, they have two different options. You could do virtual learning or you could do e-learning. And the difference between the two, as far as I understand, if I'm quoting this correctly, the difference between the two, I believe the e-learning, maybe the virtual learning, you have the teacher that comes with like Zoom and they're teaching that way. And the e-learning, they'll send the work, and as long as you get the work in on the scheduled deadline, you know, you get the appropriate grades and you move forward. Now, my issue with that, now, I don't have an issue with it because I understand it. But my concern with that is how do the kids that need the help, the extra help, learning support, that have learning disabilities and things of that nature, how do they get the extra support that they need in order to move forward? Or are we going to No Child Left Behind 2.0, where they're essentially just passing everybody just to keep them pushing through the grades? You know, but are they really learning? Are they getting the support? And as a parent, if I have a child that needs that additional support, that learning support, who would I call to get that from? Will there be an extra Zoom meeting? You know, how does that work? Do they, you know, they can't come out to the house, so how do you do that for every kid that has a learning disability? I don't know.
And some kids, you can't even get to sit in front of a computer for too long. Like, if it's not a game. You think they're going to sit here and listen to a teacher talk? We know what it's like to be on a meeting that you don't want to be on.
Right.
You know, you really think they're going to pay attention?
My 6-year-olds, they will play Fortnite all day, so I think I'm going to write a letter into Fortnite and ask them to put some math problems inside of Fortnite, put some reading things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Listen, and you know what? That's actually a really interesting idea, Ty, because my thing is teachers in the U.S. are doing so much every day at any point in time. Like everything from parent-teacher conferences. I've answered emails at 1 o'clock in the morning before. And like, not because like I was awake, but because I was like, oh, I forgot to do that thing because I had so many things to do. I literally wake up in the middle of the night to answer emails. Some teachers don't have that practice. They turn off their computer, one thing, and they're done. But my thing is like, it's almost like we're going to have to solicit the help of other areas.
Yes.
Because that students will watch YouTube in class, you know what I mean? And like what I would often do is I would weave in TED Talks and stuff that were fun and interesting into my class. So there's always like a media component, live in a world where media is everywhere. So teachers already were introducing different types of is to engage students. So it's almost like, all right, we were doing everything we could already to email parents, engage in parent-teacher conferences, keep our kids engaged too. It's gonna have to be like Fortnite team being like, all right, well, you know what? We're gonna do something that
Yeah.
is like a learning competition. It could be, you know what I mean? Like they're cool people who are playing games on Twitch and what have you, saying, all right, we're gonna have this competition for English language arts. And of course it might initially be like, oh, this is cheesy. But say you win a new Xbox, whatever, when you get some sort of educational component that proves you've understood the concept.
That is so huge.
That would change everything because learning now becomes cool. It's a cross
reward
platform. Exactly. It becomes like a reward thing. In the world of education, there's like a lot of philosophies about should you teach kids for the sake of helping them to enjoy learning, or should you teach them because they know when they get that lesson they get a lollipop? You know what I mean? It's like they'll like go for the reward, but different people have different approaches. But ultimately, you want to do the thing that will help the child, that individual child, learn the best. So it's like, hey, if I do this, then I get to meet my favorite YouTuber. Oh, all right, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do these 200 math questions.
Right.
And when I finish, I'll get this great thing because learning is cool. So if we are going to be in a digital world, and if we are going to be doing, whether it's distance learning, blended learning, online, virtual, there's so many different components to this, and it really is going to take more than just the teacher. It's going to take that village to raise these children.
Yes.
Especially the ones who have, you know what I mean? Like, especially the students who need extra help with reading. Like, I went back to school to specifically become a reading specialist, and it takes a lot to just let parents know what the child is dealing with and assessing what the situation is. And then from there, you build that learning plan. You work with special ed teachers, main classroom teachers. There's so much that goes into it. So it's going to take a village, man, and it's not going to be, it can't be just the teachers. That's the thing.
So speaking of teachers and adults, so let's flip it to us. As far as risk at going to work, I'll tell myself personally, before COVID, I was working in an office setting, selling stuff over the phone, and I've also sold stuff in front of people, going to people's houses and stuff. Now, Corona kind of slowed everyone down. First of all, people getting laid off. I think it was like 1.3 million people out for unemployment just last week. Again, it's like a total like 50-something million people filed for unemployment since the virus. So I think a lot of people, including me, have been getting new jobs. And it's given me time to kind of evaluate what do I want and how much risk am I willing to take personally. And you know what? If I have a skill set that allows me to work right here. So I just decided that working from home is just the new way to go. It's just what I'm going to be doing. I'd like to hear from you guys.
So I think that working from home, we were going that way anyway. I think COVID's just kind of sped that up, just as like a cultural shift in general. A lot of the older generation is kind of, starting to retire and stuff, and people, our age or, 10, 15 years older who, had computers and were, they did most of their career on computers, and, they understand that, a lot of these jobs can be done other places. On top of, companies cutting back, especially with everything going on, they're laying people off. They want to get rid of buildings and stop paying rent and things like that. I also think it depends on the company. Like my company is, like executive leadership wise, they're on the older side, and they like going into the office. Like I always joke that they go into work to get away from their wives. Like that's just something I always say.
That's probably
true. Why do you want to go to work? Like I want to stay home and work, in my home, but our HR is really trying to like push for that. I returned to the office this month. We're on like a 50% schedule. So we go in every other week. My first day back in the office, I had like a panic attack, anxiety attack for like the first hour. Like could not calm myself down, like crying, like, because first of all, you walk in and there's like plastic shower sheets everywhere.
Wow.
We have cubes and they're attached, like most places,
Yeah.
So in between every cube, so that we could be separated, it's big plastic
Going up to the ceiling?
between us. Not all the way up to the ceiling, but
okay.
like over the cubes. Like it's, I stand
Wow.
up and it's taller than me, and I'm almost 6 foot.
Mm.
Like pieces,
Right.
like the white pipe, and then they hang these curtains, and that's basically how it looks in there. So like that's weird. You walk into the lobby, you have to get your temperature taken every day. You have to leave if you're not sitting in your desk. Like if you go outside of basically if you leave your cube, your mask has to go on.
You gotta have your mask on, yes.
A guy comes around and he wipes down all the handles and stuff. Like every couple, I see him at least 2-3 times a day. Like I don't get anything done in work because my anxiety, I can't focus. Like I'm just like high strung. Like an email comes, I do it. Like I can't focus. Right. I get so much more done at home that the weeks that I come home from working in the office, like the first 2 days are hell because I'm trying to catch up for the week before because I just can't focus in the office. And now with, PA adding, basically saying like, hey, y'all, let's pull it back a little bit and just, start to just be a little stricter so we don't hit this craziness. Like telework, they say if it can be done from home, it should be done. Like that's part of like Governor Wolf's mandate. And haven't heard anything from my company, but I don't know. If they think I'm coming back after Friday, I'm not. Like I wouldn't be working from home. I can work from home, and it's not even like my supervisor, my manager. He's 2 years younger than me, so he's doing the same thing we're doing. He's paying attention to the news. He's listening. He wants to know what's going on, but upper management's like, oh no, we can be at 50%. You guys can come in the office, but
So let me
when
ask you.
First started, go ahead.
Go. I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
So when this first hit, they told us that if we weren't going to come into the office, we had to use vacation time.
Wow. Okay, so that feeds into my question.
One because now that's not what we're doing. Like, I'm not
crazy.
doing that with y'all. No, if I was really in there, like it's a pandemic. Like people are dying. Like I lost my grandfather during all this, so like my anxiety is even. My anxiety is even more. Like my sister's a nurse. My sister was pregnant, had to take a COVID test because of where she worked. Like it's very real. It's very close to me. So like to see people just willing to rush and like go outside, I'm like, you guys, people are still dying from this. I knew someone 25 years old who had it and was scared for his life. Like, this is real. Like, it's scary. And there's some people at my job who just are like, oh, like, it's whatever, and they're willing to go in. I'm not. Like, I've already made it clear to everyone in my family, like, if I don't feel comfortable, I'm not going. If they want to use my vacation time, that's fine. But when I run out, if I still don't feel comfortable, guess what? I'm still not coming. Like, my life is worth more than any job. I know I can get a job somewhere else doing something else, even if it's not the money that I want at the time. Like, I'll make it work because my life's worth that to me, And, like, I know everyone doesn't have that option to say, like, I'm not going to go to work, but luckily enough, I do. And I will, and I make it very clear that my manager, his boss, like, my life comes before this job, period, end of story. It could be this pandemic. It could have been something else. But I'm going to pick me over this job every time. And I've made it clear to them. If I don't feel safe, I'm not coming. And either you're going to let me work from home or you're not.
Yeah, I mean, I try to tell people, you work literally for one check at a time. You don't work for a year worth of salary. You don't work for 6 months of salary.
I work in 2 week increments.
You work in exactly one check, which a lot of times it takes us for both checks to account, both checks that we get out of the month to pay the monthly bills. But you work for one check at a time, and what's worth that? How much of your life is worth just that one check at a time? We can't talk about the check in 2 weeks. You know what I mean? We can't talk about that because that didn't come yet. Right now, you're risking your check. You're risking your life for that one check. Is it worth it? And you kind of spoke on some of the thoughts that I had because I didn't really understand, or I didn't really know if companies are justifying the ability to work at home to lessen pay or pay more. You know what I mean? And as an entrepreneur and a business owner, I can see both sides of the argument if I chose to. But as someone that's I would like to say reasonable and can understand, I think that when you start to work at home, I think honestly, to me, you should be paid more because at that point in time, you never leave work. Work never becomes separated. It becomes your life. You end up working more. You know what I mean? So are we getting compensated for that?
Yeah, it's proven that people at home work harder, longer hours.
You
That's
don't even
great.
realize it. You know, you're sitting on the couch, you have the TV playing in the background, you're typing your emails, getting through something. Next thing you know, like my brother walks in at 6 o'clock. When I go into the office, I get there at 8 a.m. and I leave at 4:30 on the dot.
Right.
Yeah.
Here, I log on by 9 a.m. and it's 6:30, 7 o'clock, and I'm like in the groove, moving, not realizing that, hey, you know, you worked way more. And granted, I'm not hourly anymore, but like, I don't also need to be doing this work. I literally got caught up because I'm sitting on my couch and I'm comfortable.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I would love to be paid more, but I know, like, because we have manufacturing, they kept going into the office doing all this, and they gave them a bonus every paycheck. So they got the check, and then they got another check that was a bonus. So I thought that was really nice.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they cut their hours too. So, like, you know, they cut their hours, but they were, you know, giving them this bonus, and that was supposed to, like, pretty much make up the difference. So you're not coming in as much, but you're not losing any money either. But bonuses also get taxed more. So, you know, come tax time, I don't know what that does to people, you know?
And doesn't the bonus kind of admit that the company knows they're higher risk and they're trying to...
Well, we're considered... My company is considered essential because we do medical, but the show must go on. That's basically like what they tell us. You know, they staggered shifts, they did all the guidelines, and the show goes on. The money has to be made. The things are still going to be, you know, hospitals are still going to need the things that we make. And
now, as a teacher, do you feel like working from home, you should be paid more or paid less or the same?
Well, I definitely think every single teacher, including myself and anyone government, should be paid. I think we all should be paid
more from the rip,
much,
right?
much more. Every teacher I've ever had, every teacher I ever will have. I might go back for more school, more degrees, whatever, but we should all be paid more. I think we do, because honestly, like, we teach and we stick with it. At least me and the community of teacher friends, because we love it. Like, we're talking about lesson planning in the summers. Teachers do 2 jobs. Like, we are there teaching the lesson from 7:15 in the morning till 2:57 in the afternoon or what have you. And then we go home and we will grade papers. Like, my first year of teaching, nobody saw me. Like, my friends didn't see me. I didn't have weekends.
Wow.
And everyone knows the first year of teaching was intense. I wish I could make this up, because I would grade papers in my evenings, and then on my weekends, I would lesson plan for the upcoming week. So it's like we're always either researching stuff, pulling up articles, grading papers, communicating with parents, because we love it. So I would say, of course, educators need to get paid more. And it's just interesting because as the pandemic hit, a lot of people, parents, everyone was like, oh, wow, like, teaching is really challenging. We should really care.
I don't know why it took for this for people to see that.
Yeah, I don't know what they were.
People can't even get their kids to listen to them, and their kids go to school and act perfectly fine. Why should we?
That's true.
Like, I just don't understand why people were acting so surprised that teachers have this hard job. I'm like, you're not children. Like, you can't even get this one kid to sit down, and they have 30 kids. Like, pay these people. Like, I know I was in terror when I was like, you know.
I personally feel like teachers, if you go to school to become a teacher, then you should have no student debt. You should, like, that should be, if you go to school to become a teacher and you graduate,
please.
Yeah, I mean, I'm serious. You should have no student debt.
I definitely agree. Yeah.
I mean,
it's just this how
I feel like if I work at Wendy's, I get a free burger. You know what I'm saying? If I work at Wendy's, I get a free burger. If I get a meal a shift.
Yeah.
If I work at GM, I get a heck of a discount for a car. If I don't get one for free every 6 months, a buddy of mine is an accountant, financial advisor for GM. He gets a free car every 6 months. He gets a new car. Him and his wife. So I feel like as a teacher, you should have no student debt. You should have no school debt, because that's what you're giving it back. Like, you're giving it back to so many people.
That's very. I could do more. I know a lot of, like me. I literally think about my student debt every day. Like, I wake up, I brush my teeth, I think about my student debt, because that's just me. I know that there are other friends in my position, but I also know that. I'm sorry, I speak in hyperbole. Let me not exaggerate. I eat breakfast, then I think about my student debt. like a lot of my friends are engaged in like loan forgiveness programs and things like that, but you have to teach for like 10 years for that to even kick in. And the retention rate for teachers oftentimes can be up to like 5. Like if you make it past that 5-year hurdle, usually you are able to sustain the longevity. But as we know, teaching in particular school districts have different challenges. And then you put on top of that whether or not the teacher or whether or not the teacher doesn't have support. Some teachers quit after the first 2 years, some quit after the first 6 months. And so it's like, if you are in it for the long run and you do get that span of time to have your loans forgiven after 10 years, and it depends on the loan also, because not all of them are forgiven, but it would be so great. And you know what? I'm sure we would see a lot more teachers as well. And for those who might be afraid of being in front of a class of 33 kids, because I taught 4 sections of anywhere between 31 and 33 kids before March and everything shut down. And like, I was really happy to be around them because they're funny and I learned a lot from them. And like, we were making TikToks at the end of the day when we finished our lesson. Teaching.
You're the cool
teacher. It would be a lot of fun.
Right. See the cool
I
teacher.
tried to be. I tried to be. But it was hard. And I'm not by any means a perfect teacher. Like, I've sat down with friends and been like, I need to get better at this because I'm not good at this. I'm playing and I try to be a positive person, but sometimes the stress can get so much that you complain. I've considered other career paths, like, and so I've had other career paths. So when Leela was talking about, oh yeah, home, and I was like, new career path, I was like, you know what? I've been there with you. But like, sometimes things just pull you back, and like, I keep finding myself in schools. I'm like, this is where I'm supposed to be for now until like I find myself elsewhere. But if there were something like, oh, if you decide to be a teacher in the United States, and many other countries have this, but if you decide to be a teacher and you rack up, for example, $100,000 worth of debt because you went undergrad, grad, you know what I mean? Like, that's how much debt you have, because that's how much
comes
school costs
quick.
these days. Like,
Yeah.
Right?
Easily.
And the income, I mean,
It doesn't match.
The income does not.
It doesn't match.
Probably.
Especially when you're trying to pay your loans back, fill your classroom with actual stuff. Like,
and then you have a 12-hour job on top of that, at least, you know?
Sometimes.
Grading paper.
But I will say some teachers are much better at their time management than I am. So I'm not going to like, I know there are things for me to work on. I need to get better at time management. I need to get better at balance, right? But half of teaching is learning. Like, you're learning your new classroom, you're learning your new students. If you change schools, you're learning the nature of the administration, the personality of your peers. Right. Every single year you walk into your job, you have to learn a whole bunch of new personalities in the form of your students. So it's like, every teach, I realize that I learned about 100 new lessons I didn't expect to learn. I will never speak ill of teaching because I think there could be a lot more respect culturally given to the field of teaching. But I just, there's so much to think about. And I think they're doing their best in Philly. I think they really are. But it's just like, it would be great if there was support coming from like other.
Yeah. Oh, sorry to cut you off. How many of your students received free internet, computers when COVID-19 first started?
Well, that's actually a good question. Yeah. So in about April, the Philadelphia School District was able to provide free Chromebook to every child that was accounted for within the district. A lot of people volunteered their time to give out laptop or Chromebooks rather, so that students are able to log in and finish all their work, are able to access Google Classroom. Some students obviously had a better internet connection at home than others, but the school district really did everything that they could. Everything from like giveaways multiple times a week. They made sure that students had food at home and easy to prepare things. So like Ashley was even talking about like kids going home and like having a ton of responsibility. Like the school district of Philly really did everything that they could in regard to making sure students had access to technology, just to nourishment and meals and things of that nature. So for the fall, like my hope would be that if, say, the Chromebooks need to be maintained, and we're still at home, like that would be something that is accounted for. If students are at home and they need meals again, like that would be, but all these things come from grants. You know what I mean?
Grants.
So it's like the school district got a huge grant to be able to have these Chromebooks to distribute that the students so desperately needed. So yeah.
And do you think that's something they'll be able to maintain? You know, as this pandemic continues to go on, do you think that's something they'll be able to maintain, the level of funding, the level of care, the attentiveness of giving every student a Chromebook, and being able to upkeep them? You know, they get viruses, and some kids never had a laptop at home, so you know they're using it for other things other than schoolwork. So you know what I mean. So are they able to maintain it? Do you think they will be able to? And first, let me say big shout out to Philadelphia School District for being able to do that. That was huge. That's really, really, really big. And being from there, you know, I appreciate that tenfold, because you know that was actually one of the last things I expected that our school district would be able to do. But I'm appreciative of it. But back to the question: do you think that's something they're able to maintain?
To be honest, that's the planning part now. I know they're developing a lot of different action plans, but I'm not in the room where those conversations are happening. And there's only so much that can be done without knowledge of what's going to happen. But I think in the midst of their planning, they are probably considering every single option and saying, okay, well, option A, we go back. Option B, we do not. And if in the event, how can we maintain it? So I can't give a definitive yes or no, but my understanding is that the team that's working at Phila SD to make sure that things are organized, they're trying to cover every single base. And of course, there's a lot of unknown, but they're really doing everything they can to make sure that when, the last week of August comes, we can go forth with like at least some sense of knowing that there will be support, and knowing that the support will be for students, but also for their parents, because that's ultimately what we'll need. Like parents will need to be supported as well as we move forward. So I know the school district is probably considering all those angles.
Yeah, and you mentioned something about, well, I was thinking about the buildings, you know, if you guys don't go back, you know, there is, during this time, okay, I'll say personally, I was laid off. Then I wasn't getting that unemployment. I switched states, so I kind of had to just eat that. Found another job making less money, but I was spending a lot less money. Like I wasn't driving.
Right.
It wasn't going nowhere. I just sat in the house dark. You know, I didn't turn on lights. So I'm thinking like these schools are going to be, and a lot of these workplaces, yeah, probably going to be, you know, saving some money in other places. And yeah, going back to work, I was at a job before I made the decision I'm only going to work from home. I was at a job where they decided, okay, we're going to bring you back. And during that week, I only stayed with them for a week. After they made the decision, I was losing money. Driving 35 minutes to get there, you know, driving back, eating while I'm there, you know, ordering food. You know how that goes. That gets crazy.
Yeah. I'm ordering Chinese. Next thing you know, you're ordering Chinese too.
Yeah, you know,
yeah, $12 plate.
That's $12, $15 a day.
Yeah, and I just spent $50 just to get there. So
you spend $100 every time you leave your house easily.
Yeah.
So I can see how you were losing money going into work.
Yeah.
It's not like they're giving you any more, and they want you to come in, and like you said, you're buying lunch.
Right.
Now you need gas because you've been driving all week. There's another bill, like.
Yeah. So it goes with that risk, like the risk of going to work. But there's also a loss, just a monetary loss sometimes with going to work. And for me, my answer right now, it might change, but working from home is good. I got a nice view. I got that window seat I've been looking for.
The corner office.
Home.
Yeah. I got a perfect corner office view. It's beautiful. And yeah, this is working for me, and I just kind of put my time in, and I keep it moving. I pursue my other passions, and I'm with a young company now that understands that people have life outside of work. So it just
That's
gives me more
nice.
time to pursue like this and connect with my boy Ty and you guys. So yeah, have you guys like kind of calculated or found that going to the office in your case actually has its costs?
Yeah, and it's not just monetary. Like the weeks that I've been going into the office, I've realized that I'm also not like when I'm home, I'm cooking dinner more. I'm here, I can start, even before I clock off. When I'm going in the office, I'm so drained from just being so stressed out all day. Like I think I've ordered out every night this week almost. Like I'm like, oh my god, my poor family is just eating like Maggiano's and hoagies. Like like that's not good. Like in a week I'm gaining 4 pounds because I'm so stressed out that I'm just ordering food. Like, yeah, that costs money, but to me, the fact that like I'm just so tired when I get home from work, just from just like the anxiety of it all day, like that's exhausting. I don't know if you guys like get anxious and stuff, but like
it's
anxiety, like that's exhausting. Like I'm ready to come home and just lay on my couch and do nothing. So not only am I losing money because I'm driving, I'm getting lunch, I work near all the good food places, so.
Yeah.
There's $15 real quick because I got lunch and I might be hungry later again. Or I got breakfast and I need a snack. Like you lose money and then time because I'm driving to and from work. And like I say time, but I'm being obnoxious because I work 15 minutes, so a half hour a day. But just I don't want to cook.
Yeah.
I just want to come home and chill. I don't want to really do anything else. And like I've noticed that's affecting me. I'm a little more high strung when I got to go to work. The Sunday before I have to go into work, everyone just leaves me alone because I'm really like
Sunday scaries.
Yeah. I'm sitting there stressing out because I gotta go sit amongst people who I still see not covering their mouth, and just like I just you can't control other people. I can just stay in this little bubble.
And another thing, being in my home bubble, I'm not a minority at home.
Not at all. You're real.
Everybody in my house is
You're
black.
Safer.
So I don't.
Safer in the crib for sure.
Yeah, and these workplace racially charged microaggressions.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got time. This is very good. Elbow grease, you get it off.
Elbow grease, we cover it all bases.
Yeah.
Listen,
You know what I mean?
Put it in there.
Don't.
Yeah.
We can do this. We can have that conversation with that. I had to listen because
Ashley, do you remember? Because I don't know if you were there, but I went at the company Iron Mountain. They had a cafeteria. Breakfast, I went there, paid my $5 for my breakfast. And there's TVs, and I think I'm waiting by the cashier, and this lady comes up behind me. She asks, "Hey, were you waiting in line for sneakers?" I said, "What?" She said, "Yeah, I saw the news. Everyone was waiting in line for sneakers." And I'm like, "No, what? Everyone's waiting for sneakers?" I said, "Were you waiting for sneakers? I'm not even wearing sneakers. I had on some dress shoes." Yeah. Oh man, that took me out of my work for like a week.
Yeah, because you also know that there's so many people who probably think the same thing.
Oh yeah, and she literally had no idea or act like act like she didn't know what she was saying.
It's so second nature to some people because that's just what they've always seen, and no one's ever checked anyone around them to know that's not the right thing to say. They just think no one had to say anything, but that was a different time and a different generation. And my daughter, I told her, you will speak. No, don't let that slide. Like you have to teach them young. Like you have to set the tone. If they know they can't say that stuff around you, there's going to be people who are going to try it, but you need to know. Hi, excuse me. You don't see me sitting here? Do you want to explain? Because as soon as you ask them, well, what do you mean? Oh, well, you just what? You got the right one. You just got the right one, ma'am. What do you mean? Like,
and at the workplace, when because we all going to work, we all just trying to make our living. You got to deal with that.
Right.
On top of it, it's just
I want to make my money and go home.
But this racially charged environment right now is really pulling people by the coattail because right now you have people right now that they have stereotypes in their mind about us. You know, they have stereotypes in their mind. Should I say it? Should I not say it? Is it the right thing to say? And you have those that play on that and hide behind it, and they know damn well what they're saying,
Exactly.
and they know it, but they'll hide. Oh, I didn't know that was offensive. I apologize. I'm sorry. How could you not know? You know what I mean? Do I have Boo Boo the Fool written on my forehead or not?
If it's your real hair.
Oh, yeah, right. Can you say that again?
Say it again. Say it again.
I didn't mean to interrupt. You're like, oh my God, is that your real hair?
Yeah, there
It's
it
like
is.
we are in the cafeteria. I'm not gonna answer the question in front of all these people.
Right.
I'm not gonna honor that with response. Like well, you want me to say yes, no? Like what response would you no?
You know, or they see someone like me.
It's mine. That's all that matters.
Or they see someone like me. Oh my God, are you black? Are you black? Yes, I'm black. Why? Because I have curly hair. I'm light skinned. I'm black. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous.
And the thing is, I have to go into work and literally be ready for that. Because when you're caught off guard at times, like, yeah, that'll hit you hard. So that's another thought that I could be thinking about my job. So it's really these microaggressions, these racially charged microaggressions. They're not good for business. Well, no matter
what.
what.
We're living in crazy times right now. Between that, the pandemic, like, you just don't know. And then, yeah, that and the pandemic, because people have two totally different views on the pandemic. People tend to have totally two different views on human equality. Apparently, that needs to be debated. So it's like, you're going into work and, you're getting people. Like, I've had instances where we were on these Zoom calls for work and stuff. People are saying little slick stuff when the protesting started. I went to a protest. I went to one in Norristown. I believe in that. Like, I'm black, okay? Period, end of story, I'm black. And if that makes y'all uncomfortable in here, oh well. But I've had them say little slick stuff on the Zoom meeting, but I'm just waiting.
Oh my.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm waiting till we get back in the office and we say something. I know that the Zoom meetings, we don't show ourselves on the Zoom meeting. It's just our voices, So
wow.
I want you to know that I'm saying something to you. I want you to see all this and all these if I happen to use them while I'm explaining. Like, I want them to understand, like, and I'm going to refer to, remember that time on the Zoom meeting you said this, this, and this? Because I don't forget, because I'm black and you're talking about black people.
Right.
Like, period, end of story. And I want them to know that in person, because white people love to say stuff on the internet, love to say stuff on the phone. Well, here we are. Say it now. Let's own up to what you say. If you believe in that and that's truly what you believe in, say it and stand behind it. So when I start asking you to explain it, if it's real, you'll be able to. But guess what? You're not going to be able to, because human equality is not debatable and you're an idiot. Like, it's really just that simple. And I cannot wait to get into work and tell them that. Hi, you're stupid. Like, it's, I just don't. You deal with pandemic, don't want to wear their mask, talking about not wearing masks. You got that. Like, to be black right now, you just have to be on your shit all the time.
You have to be.
At any point. And it's always been a thing, but it's just like now, like you said, it's everywhere.
Well, now the racists, I love seeing the racists now, they are losing jobs.
Yeah, what?
It's expected.
I call jobs. Oh, hi. Yeah. I saw that so-and-so who was apparently this at your job per their LinkedIn. Email, phone call. I love that. Like, let me know you know a racist. Do you? I call all those places. I email. I don't care. I sign petitions. Like, lose your job. Lose it. Please. Yeah. I want you to. You deserve to lose your job.
And I want 10 black people to apply for your job after you do it.
All right?
You know what?
Because they're probably better at it than you anyway.
What this president has done, right? He has made it okay for everyone to show their real colors. You know what I mean? So you know what I mean? So yeah. I do thank him for that, because what he's done, because what he's done is he has pulled back the onion layers of America, and when you peel the layers of an onion, it usually brings tears. So now he has made your neighbor feel comfortable enough to show the Confederate flag, to show their true colors. He has made America comfortable enough for teachers, doctors, lawyers to grab tiki torches and walk down the street together. This is something that wouldn't have happened since the '60s, since the Civil Rights movement. But
Right.
now,
I'd rather know the racist than think
Yeah.
not know the racist I'm living next to. You
Yeah.
know?
Oh yeah.
I agree with that.
you know, so
You
I,
want to
you
be
know,
a racist,
I thank
be a
him for that.
racist. Own it. Let us see it.
Yeah, just
I
be
agree.
that way. I know what I'm dealing with. You know what I mean? You can stay in your lane. I stay in my lane. You know what I mean?
Right.
You trust me. You don't want to cross my lane. You know what I mean?
That
So
part.
just stay safe and stay to you, and I'll do the same. You know what I mean? So I appreciate him for that because man, I've seen some comments on Facebook from people I went to school with.
Oh, okay.
Some people I was
Toxic
cool.
comments from other teachers.
I mean,
Like,
I was
Yeah.
cool
the
with in high
teachers.
school.
Same,
Even
same.
teachers.
We had a teacher in our district writing some craziness.
You know what I mean?
Listen, hi, email. She could be my kid's teacher one day.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, you got people I went to school with, teachers that taught me, and I'm like, and growing up, I'm like, oh man, they're cool, and that's my man, that's my buddy, and you know what I mean? Oh, they don't look at color like that. No, I was completely wrong. Completely wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mind blowing, man. It's really mind blowing when you start to pull the the cover off of some of these faces, man. It's serious.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because initially I was like, oh, we're going to run our country like a reality show. So I guess there's just going to be a whole bunch of drama. Like, there's going to be a whole bunch of intrigue. Okay, there's going to be a whole bunch of calling out and nonsense and tweets at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, reality show. But like, reality shows are run by producers who are making things happen behind the scenes that you never see.
Right.
Like, and so like I think it's a much better way to describe how our country's run right now. It's like this revealing sort of place where you know who and what you are dealing with, which on one hand, some can say is petrifying, but honestly, I think it's really empowering because I know, first of all, I know the non-Black friends who I have who are out here like riding and dying for the cause. Like, and it's not just a matter of them saying one tweet or one blackout cube on Instagram. They're like, no, they're like having conversations with their family members. They are writing letters. They are signing petitions. They are making the conversation about Black people. They themselves are not Black. And I'm like, I see you all because I've talked to them. And this is the first time I've had some time because usually I'm doing other stuff. But I'm like, all right, you know what? Pandemic, it allows me to connect with the people I love. And some of the people, well, many of the people I love are Black, obviously, but a lot of my very, very, very close friends are the children of immigrants from other non-Black countries, or straight up white folks. Like, I got friends who are all different backgrounds, and like, I appreciate knowing the friends who are like, I see you, like, I see this cause, and I'm out here. They're not like publicizing it, but they're like, I'm gonna have that uncomfortable conversation at Thanksgiving because I've wanted to have it before, and now I can have it. So it's like, all right, like, we know what we're dealing with. And like in the world of education, what I'm hoping to see, like just before I left school, we had a PD at the end of February that had to do with like white sensitivity and white fragility. And they talk a lot about unpacking the knapsack and the privilege of whiteness. And we sat in two circles and were led by two white women. And they talked at this school in South Philly about the nature of like whiteness, what it means to be in a position of privilege, and what it means to teach in an urban environment where 75 to 80% of your kids are kids of color. And I thought, wow, like, I'm really glad that we're having this conversation. And there are so many articles that have been shared left and right. Like, one of the biggest ones is Peggy McIntosh, where I guess it was maybe the 80s she published it, where she talks about like what it means to have white privilege. And so I was glad we had that conversation, but not every school is having that conversation. Not every school understands what Black Lives Matter means if they don't have a high demographic of Black students. So my hope would be that as we move forward, because our students are seeing all of this, our kids are on the phones all the time. They're absorbing all this, whether it's on TikTok or what. So it's like that safe space where students see people who look like them is kind of changed now for the fall. My hope is that teachers are going to do sensitivity training because kids have been seeing these programs. If not, and some high school kids that are gone. And like, they're gonna want to decompress and talk about what they've seen. So it's like, how do we now create that space on top of it being a pandemic, on top of students having lost parents and what have you, on top of them being lonely and experiencing symptoms of sadness, perhaps depression, from being away from an environment where they found comfort and some sort of routine. Now, how are we going to equip ourselves to have those conversations? Because like this race thing has always been here. Since
Yes.
the main
Right.
concept of
It's not
race
new.
has been imposed.
It's not new.
It's
Yeah.
not new. Systems of power, not new, right? So it's like, we've been having conversations, all of us in our square, about race our whole life because we have
You
to.
have to. You have
But there are many people.
Right.
Yeah, had the conversation. Listen, you get pulled over by the cops,
This
put your
whole
hands on the
world,
steering
there's
wheel.
still racist.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Put your hands on the steering wheel. Yes, sir. No, sir. Don't move. Don't reach for anything. You know what I mean?
Okay.
We've
Right.
had that
Right.
conversation.
Right. Yeah, that's
Right.
before you.
And-
You have to.
Keep your hands where you can see.
And far
Don't talk.
right,
Just
and far as
respectful.
schools,
Yep.
as far as
Yeah.
schools go, being able to teach about white privilege. First, I got to give a big shout out to Miss Jane Elliott, who doesn't experience it. If you guys don't know, anybody that's watching, if you don't
Yeah.
know who Jane
Brown
Elliott
eyes.
is,
Yo,
you
yeah.
have to
Yeah.
watch it.
That's the truth.
Absolutely. You know, Blue Eyes, Brown Eyes, it is enlightening. It's life changing. And it is a must watch. And I feel like at high school, they have to implement this at high school level, even before high school level, at junior high school level, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
They have to
I'm gonna
implement the
tell you.
teachings of this.
We teach black kids this shit as soon as they come out, as soon as they can walk, as soon as they can talk. White kids have the privilege to wait till they're 15, 16, 17, 18.
Yeah.
And even
Right.
beyond that, they go to college and still say, do, and act
How they want.
how they want. And you know what I mean? Like, I feel like this type of, like, if we really want to see some type of change, we have to start teaching this early. Like, when they get into kindergarten, because you still have a little bit of a chance, you know, at that age, they're still excited, it's just friends, you know?
Right.
But, you know, by the time you get halfway through kindergarten, they realize, oh, he's black, and she's brown,
Yeah.
and he's white, and
It's
that's
taught.
red hair.
It's
and,
all taught.
Yeah,
It's taught.
They see it.
It's taught in the basis. And I don't want to go here. I'm not going to go here, but I have to. Since we're on this topic, it is taught in the very basis of religion. You know, I had a conversation with a friend, and he was talking to someone that was white, and you know, the person was like, "Oh, you know, let's talk about race. You know, I want to let's be real. Let's have a real conversation." And the statement was made. Okay, you want to have a real conversation with me about race? We cannot move forward about this conversation about race until you tell me Jesus is black.
I know
Until
that
you
Conversation over. Conversation
until you're
Yeah,
able to
it's
tell me
Ooh.
Jesus is black, then we can have a conversation about racism, and where do you stand at it? But until you're able to do that, you will never understand what systemic racism is, because that is the very essence of it that has
Yeah,
been
they don't hold on
implemented
to
and
that.
taught
The
to us from the
baseline, if you
womb.
can't
That's the
start
last thing
there,
they'll
we can't go anywhere. That's like the
Yeah.
baseline. Like,
Right.
you believe everything else in the Bible literally tells you what he looks like. That don't sound like no white man to me.
Yeah, and now going back to teaching, I follow this Instagram site, whatever, Black Mainline Speaks, and it's
Oh, yeah, I've heard of
yes,
that.
yes. So
Yeah, yes.
yeah, I just pulled it up. Yeah, it's
What's that? I need
it's
to
my
know.
story. Yeah,
They go
it's my
in.
story.
They
It's
go
about
in.
black. Yeah, they go in.
the main line.
Yeah, white
Oh my mom lives
mainline.
down there.
Right, white schools, and there's black kids in the schools, and they tell the
Bro, my brother.
stories of
Bro,
Just
that's crazy.
microaggressions, outright aggressions, just racism in these schools. So there is a Nuke, you say you teach in middle school, right? Middle school?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is there have to be changes to the curriculum? Like when you're studying a lot of racially charged books, like To Kill a Mockingbird. And
I just taught that this past spring. Yeah.
okay, so how do you handle when you have the kids have to read aloud nigger, the word?
Yep.
You like how do you handle it? And is that something that
Well,
you feel like you
so-
should?
And why are we reading these books if we're not going to talk about
Yeah,
You're lucky
what-
my kid's
what-
not
what-
in that
what-
class,
what they
and
really
she's not
mean.
gonna let you.
You know what I mean? Why are we reading these books if we're not going to really talk about the history and behind why a book like To Kill a Mockingbird is based on a true story? Like, why are we not going to talk about how Emmett Till was beat the way he was beat? You have these kids read these books and go into these stories, and you tiptoe around Black history, which you tiptoe around American history because you don't want to break down the veil of this great country. No, let's go into it. Let's be real about it. Like, I don't understand that. It chaps me. I got a little fired up. I'm gonna calm down a little bit. But you know what I mean. But it bothers me, man, because we have these kids. Especially, I mean, I remember being in PV and we went over To Kill a Mockingbird.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being in PV, which is a predominantly white high school, and I don't remember having a conversation about the race and about the country and about the times that produced a book like this. We didn't have those conversations. We talked about it like it was just a cartoon or an animation, like an anime, like it just didn't really happen.
Seuss.
Like, no, this is real. Like, this is what really happened to people. Like, man, I digress.
But yeah, as a teacher, how do you set the story?
Yeah. So okay. So where I was, the 10th grade was learning it, and there's a lot of at least for me, I was very lucky. There's a lot of support within the school. So I went to and just to be completely clear, I was in for a teacher who was on maternity leave. So the curriculum requires us to teach Mockingbird, but there's also a range of stories that one is able to teach. Another option was a story by a Nigerian writer, but I'm half Nigerian, so I was like, maybe I'll teach this. But you know what? Hey, Niger!
Yoruba.
I was, hey, you Yoruba?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, we're going to talk.
Very cool. Okay.
I'll put my dashiki.
Cool. I didn't know you did. Hey, got my gele on.
Hey.
Let me stop. My gele is
This is rubbish.
But I was, what is this?
What is this?
Don't get me started. I'm over here on the night stand.
Take you on a Nollywood real quick.
Go ahead. Growing up, working on the driveway. Anyway, I digress. When I spoke with the support at my school,
keep going.
Different teachers choose to teach subjects differently, right? The teacher who would originally have been teaching it is a Caucasian woman, very focused on equality, very focused on giving perspective to and voice to different characters. So she would have taught it one way. And we went back and forth, and like granted, these are students I didn't meet until Thanksgiving, so right after Thanksgiving. Rather, so we were still getting together. So when I went into teaching, I talked to everybody. I talked to another English teacher downstairs who also taught poetry. I talked to another veteran teacher who's been in the district maybe like plus 20 years about how he would teach it because the books were filed away in his room, so he's taught it before. We had conversations about Atticus. He came in my room. He was like, Atticus, when Harper, what's his name again?
Harper Lee?
I can't remember the author's name. There it is. It's like Harper Collins.
Is it Lee Harper or Harper Lee?
Harper Lee revealed, it's Harper Lee. But when Harper Lee went back and revealed later in her life, she reflected that Atticus was held up as this pillar of fairness and equality, having been the person to defend and stand in court. Atticus actually at some point in his life revealed that he was pretty much racist, and because of the times, it was kind of accepted, but we often hold Atticus up on this pillar as someone who is an incredible character. Exactly, white savior. So it's like, we could analyze it from the perspective of the white savior and focus on Atticus, but when I chose to teach it, I taught it along with like the real world story of like the Scottsboro Boys, which was occurring at that same time in Scottsboro, Alabama. We had these young boys they did absolutely nothing but hop on a train to try to find work during the Depression.
Right.
2 young women said, they raped us, but they hadn't even met these women in their lives. So like I had a full out conversation framing everything about what it means to be wrongfully convicted of a crime. And then it just so happened that Ava DuVernay has done this incredible job of releasing things about the 13th Amendment and what have you, which also ties into the criminal justice system. But I showed them in the Central Park Five, an interview that was done
Okay.
with the 5 real gentlemen
From Central Park.
because of course it's a very, very long series, but important to watch, and it's very heavy. But I wanted these students to realize that not that long ago, a full page ad was taken out in the New York Times by someone with whom we are very familiar, saying that these 5 young boys who were completely innocent deserved the death penalty.
Death.
And so I wanted the students to have this framework, and I wanted them to really think about how this is a real story and how, even though it's essentially about Atticus's actions and how he defended people, I wanted to think all about Tom Robinson. Like, the mockingbird that you are looking to kill is him. Like, the whole story is carried by the individual that we're waiting for, the person who we, in the end, sorry to give it away, is killed. But it's like, it's just really interesting. I mean, it's in the title. I don't know, spoilers. It's in the title. But
the book's been out for a while.
It's
look
okay.
on SparkNotes, you know?
It's been on Netflix for a while. Yeah.
Out there. So everything. But I wanted to make sure that the focus was on the individual who, in this case, was essentially the victim. Like, I wanted the focus to be on him. And I wanted the students to understand, to not just humanize him, but to understand that this is something, a trend that we have off. Emmett Till is a trend. You know what I mean? There are so many trends. It's devastating that there are these innocent young Black people who are convicted of something that they've never done. They're not necessarily equipped with adequate representation. So that's a whole different subject. But when it comes to context, curriculum, and what is taught and why, I do think that it's important that if one is required to teach a certain set of books, that one inprints additional resources to help supplement the lesson. You can't just open the book and read chapter 1 through 2, go home and read chapter 2 through 4, have some quiz that the teacher made based on what the teacher thinks is important, and then just keep pushing through. No, it's like, what do your students look like? What's the demographic of your classroom? Do you have English language learners in your classroom? Because I did. I had a lot of English language learners. So it's like, how can we break down these conversations? How can I frame the N word? Because many of you did not grow up in this country. How can we approach that with a lot of compassion and a lot of sensitivity? And in the class that I taught, we had a full conversation before we even got to that point in the book. We were like, what does the N word mean to you? And we had kids just kind of like voice off. One kid said this, one kid said that, one kid said it's a term of endearment. One kid said, how dare you ever say a word like that? It has to do with a long history. Some people like ER is one thing, A is different. I wanted to have all of those perspectives on the table. And me as the teacher, I would just facilitate. I'm not there to say, you're right, you're wrong. That's not my job at that point. My job at that point is to say, you students have the floor, you have this space to share what your perspectives are. But when we get to this N word, there, as we've seen, are people who are still offended. So in order to not offend those individuals, it's in the text. You can say N word or you can spell it out. Some teachers would teach it differently. Some people will have a different approach. Some people will say, Nuke, that approach doesn't make sense. You're beating around the discomfort of learning and embracing the word. You lead your class how you wish. I will lead mine. And if I'm observed and they see me observing and they say, go on ahead, cool. Because it's not just me in a bubble doing what I want to do. I'm held accountable as a teacher as well. And if I have somebody read the N-word out loud in class, where some schools are reading the N-word, some schools have banned To Kill a Mockingbird entirely, and they're not allowed to teach it. But some schools are embracing the language, and if a child goes home, tells their parent, oh, my teacher has us saying the N-word, I'm uncomfortable, what position does that put me in? You know what I mean? Will I undergo scrutiny because I have some things that I'm teaching that are leading to offense? So it depends on the situation. And then when it comes down to curriculum, I would love to see more books that are taught by authors who reflect the experiences of our students. And I would love to see books that are, because I would love to see a book written in multiple languages, like one side of the page in Spanish, one side of the page in English. What does it mean to look at that text? Like, what does it mean if you're looking at Japanese symbols and then English on the other side? Like,
Right.
who's selecting the curriculum? So I would love to see more diverse books, which I think are definitely needed. I also think there's a concept in education that has to do with like windows and mirrors, right? We read books where we look the window into someone else's life, but then we also need books that are a mirror, a reflection of what we see.
Right.
I love reading my Addie book from the American Girl
Yes,
Club.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had every one of them Jones and the dog.
Like me.
Listen, my daughter reads those books.
It's like we need that. We need that, and that doesn't go away, right? That doesn't go away from childhood. Every single high school kid, middle school kid, what have you, adult, like we need to see books that reflect us. We need to see curriculum where our experience is validated. We need to see relatable stories. So I just think that there's always so much work to be done, but it does start with the sensitivity of the individual who's looking to teach the material, not just say, oh, I have to teach this again, but say, okay, like, can I frame this so my students are empowered?
Yeah.
How can I frame this so that I feel interested in teaching it?
Right.
And how can I teach them something useful? Put on Netflix, show them Ava DuVernay, talk about it, and let them know that it's not just information that starts and stops on the page, but it's information that they take into their real life experience.
Right.
Yeah, and I can tell you the way you I can already know by the way you frame the Kill a Mockingbird with historical context and what's going on pretty much now, and then allowing them to voice that class changed somebody's life.
Yes.
That is a class.
Say, they don't even realize what you're doing. Like they're what are they?
Will remember that.
Middle school, you said?
There's
They'll get to college and
that was in 10th grade, right?
They're in 10th grade.
They're in 10th.
Substitute. Yeah.
They're like
they're going to
16
remember. Yeah, they're 60. They're going to remember that when they're 36, 46, 56. They're going to be telling their kids, oh, you read it, To Kill a Mockingbird? Let me tell you how I read it.
Right.
And how this teacher taught me.
Hopefully they're reading something
That's
different
beautiful.
by then.
Well, yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's
The
kind of
next set
hard.
of grades.
But the context and the pictures painted of America and where it was and how it still looks that way, I think that makes it an appropriate setting to read that and take it in the way.
Especially when you're dealing with a school, well, not even necessarily just school, but a society that only deals with Black history 1 month out of the year.
Black History, period. Not Black History Month, Black History.
Right,
like,
Black History, period.
Yeah.
Just
like,
we give, and it happens to be the shortest month out of the year. You know what I mean? So you get 28 days to talk about how this country was built. So how do you
okay, how it was built.
How it was built. So how do you? And I think a lot of times with the issue with the youth, we don't see ourselves in these books. We don't see, like you said, the mirror. The mirror part of education is not there. Going to school when I was in school, I didn't see myself in history. I didn't see myself like, oh man, that was he was a great king. Maybe I could be that one day, because I didn't learn about someone that looks like me being a king. That's not what I learned about. I didn't see that. So how can you manifest something that you don't see, you don't hear, you don't know exists? You know what I mean? The biggest thing for me to make it out, and Leland can attest to this, the biggest thing for me to make it out of where I came from was football. I had to make it in football. That was it. Some of my other friends, it had to be basketball.
A lot of times.
True.
You know what I mean? And that was it. Like, that's the only thing that I seen was successful to make it out. If other than that was being a rapper. But that's because the mirror in education does not exist the way it should. So hopefully teachers like you and mindsets like yours can gradually become more and more of a stronger force in today's society and moving forward with our kids and our youth and our future, because they have to see something more than being an entertainer. They have to see something more than just, if it's not an entertainer, 9 times out of 10, kids are going to pick something that's an entertainer. you striving
We
to
need to
be
see more doctors and lawyers and
exactly
tradesmen and people who make the world go, bakers and artists and whatever. Like there's so many
people
things.
who work in tech. We need more black people.
Yes,
in tech.
Silicon Valley. Like
there's so many opportunities.
There was a huge article. There was a huge article that came out that there is not enough. There's not enough. What's the word I'm looking for? Diversification in Silicon Valley. There's not enough of it.
Oh yeah.
It was a huge thing, and I don't know. Most people don't know what Nipsey Hussle was doing before his untimely demise. In the marathon store. Shout out to a real one, 10 toes down. You know what I mean? The marathon continues.
All for that matter, all of Crenshaw.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So that store that he was creating, the marathon store, was so big as far as what you're saying in the tech field, in the digital field. It was so huge what he was doing. That was going to change the world. It was going to change the world. And hopefully, it has enough momentum to continue forward and one day be picked up and carried on. But that whole platform of what he was doing in that marathon store was so huge. But stuff like that comes a dime a dozen because we're not in the positions that we need to be.
Yeah, and those, I don't know if you guys ever looked into it. So my daughter is like into that. Like I told you, I have one daughter, so I can do things that a lot of people can't because I only have one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about it. We talk about college. We talk about just life and jobs, and we talked about that. And she said, "Oh, can you see if there's a camp?" Another thing is the funding camp. Do you know how much a STEM camp is? And it's either it's being held at Villanova.
It's ridiculous.
It's being held at Villanova. You can either sleep over or you can stay. It's a week long, and it's like $1,500, and that's just like
it's
one of
ridiculous.
the more basic packages. There's different things that you can do, and they cost different money. This year they're not having it anymore, but they basically tell you in February, hey, we're going to start booking, and I don't know about y'all, where y'all are from, but where I'm from, people don't have $1,500 just laying around. You know what I'm saying? Like, those opportunities aren't there. Luckily, because I'm an active parent, I look for things in my town. I want my kid to be exposed. I want her to see the world. I want her to know there's, more out there. Our library did a STEM 2-day series with the Franklin Institute, and it was free. And it was only 2 days, but she got to do it. She got to experience. I think she dissected something too. So, she has those experiences, but there's so many friends who can't even ask their parents to go to STEM camp because their parents don't know what STEM is. It's just, we need more people in these fields, but there's not enough of us to even let other people know, hey, this is a field for us. We can excel in anything we do because we excel in everything we do. Why can't we take over STEM? Why can't we take over that whole sector? Like you said, they don't see that. There's no mirror of them. You go on and you see the tech giants and, they're all white men.
That's perfect, because that's a perfect transition to an article Leland sent me about Google. Yeah. Google is willing to scholarship over 100,000 careers in the certifications. They're going to give scholarships, 100,000 career scholarship certifications to become Google IT. So
that's
not
science, don't need
project management, and UX.
Yes. So just a few months, and it's like, even if you don't get a scholarship, it's like $49 a month. Yeah. And you can get a tech job, most likely working from home, I'm sure.
Yeah, you'd be working from home. I actually took the analytics course for Google. I actually took the analytics course for Google.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
And it was very, very enlightening because you understand how to do how to handle the analytics behind the office and the AdWords and the SEO content, how it reads and everything like that, the insights behind the websites. So, me and my kids, I tell them, listen, it's just like you're going to learn English and hopefully you'll learn another language like Spanish or something like that. You're going to learn code. I have a little brother that's 14 years old. I tell my mom all the time, listen, make sure he learns how to code. That has to be because in the next 10, 15 years, if you don't know how to code, you're going to be in trouble. Just like when we came up, if you didn't have a second language or a computer, or if you didn't have a second language, the chances of you getting a really good job was down. if you don't know how to code in the next 10, 15 years, the computer language, you're going to be in trouble. So,
yeah. So we got some business owners here, right? So Ashley, tell me about what you do besides, the nonprofit.
So I actually opened my own business in January. It's a hair accessories line. It's called Hella Classic. I have one of the shirts on right now.
Okay.
But we do hair and body accessories. I don't have any accessories on. I'm sorry. Hair and body accessories, and also Hella Classic merch. We just dropped a tie-dye line where I hand-dyed every single item, every T-shirt, every headband I have, every tote bag. That was an experience. This has been an experience. I also recently joined a nonprofit based here out of Norristown. We're still finishing up all the paperwork. It's called Misfit Heroes, Inc. And basically, I'm head of volunteer services, so I will be looking for volunteers. If anybody's interested, please feel free to hit me up. And we're fundraising, but the basis behind it is everybody needs help sometime. And we can all help each other. There's lots of people out here who, they have 3-4 kids and they make too much money to get any type of benefit, but they're struggling because it's expensive to live and have children and exist. And we want to help them, whether it be financially or linking them with educational programs or therapy to help them break trauma, break cycles. We want to help them exceed and sustain, and that's like the goal behind it. So I recently joined that. So those are the two things. Hella Classic, and Hella Classic has a website, hellaclassic.bigcartel.com.
Okay.
Also on my Instagram, which is Hella Classic. And Misfit Heroes, our website should be done this week. So you'll be seeing me post a lot more about that.
Awesome.
It's based here in Norristown, which is where I'm from. And Nuke can tell you, I've always loved where I'm from, even though, you go to college to get away, I'm never coming back. And I went away to Massachusetts, and I missed it terribly.
Ashley rep Norristown.
Listen, born and
I love
raised,
it.
I went to high school here. Like, my family's from here. Like, Norristown just has so much potential, and there's so many great people here. But, we've had some bad leadership over the years, and, our councilmen and women are, they're a little younger. They're a little more in tune about what's going on. They want to see changes. They want, I feel like I don't know if you guys are, into spirituality or anything like that, but I am, and 2020 was predicted to be a very spiritual year as far as a shift in power, a huge change is supposed to happen this year, and as you can see, we're going through crazy changes, crazy shifts in power, and just I just feel like now is the time that Norristown can really we can do something, and I feel like there's a lot of communities now. We have a lot of people who are older and things we've been thinking about since we were kids to make a change. This is where I live. I raised my kid here. I want to be proud. I want to see it be what it can be, because Norristown can really be something special if we really believe it to be, and that's a lot of places. You just got to have the right people and people who believe in their town. And I think that that's missing from a lot of places because people are struggling. It's hard out here.
Awesome.
But, I'm lucky enough to be able to be in a position to be more helpful than struggle. So,
yeah.
Hella Classic, how did you come up with that, or what inspired you to come up with that, and how did you pick up the skills and to put those things together?
So Hella Classic literally has been an idea since I don't even know, maybe before I even had my daughter, 1920. Hella Classic was actually my AIM screen name, and I love the West Coast. Yeah, that's how
AOL Instant Messenger AIM.
Yes, AOL Instant Messenger AIM screen, all that. Yeah, me and Nuke used to we lived across the street and would ping, and I am each other.
Yeah. That's how I learned to type.
But it was my screen name. Yeah, it was my screen name. Hella is a very West Coast slang, means a lot, very much, and I don't know. I just feel like I belong on the West Coast, so it just stuck with me since then. I used it in my everyday. If you talk to me, I say hella. That's part of my.
True.
That's just the way I talk, and classic because I love all things.
Oh my
classic.
gosh, you really are West Coast. I'm so sorry. I lived in Cali for a while, and now too. But it just hit me. You are so. Oh my God, you're so West Coast. I didn't see it till now. Continue.
But so Hella Classic to me, it just felt like the right thing. And I just, I worked in corporate America. I worked for the Gap when I was younger. I worked as a stock supervisor. So inventory and putting stuff out and setting the floor and all that. Like, I loved all that. I loved small little details. I love beautiful things. I also love not spending a lot of money. You know, I like to have nice things at an affordable price because, like I said, like, you know, I'm on a budget. I was a young mom. Like, you couldn't just buy things because you wanted to buy them. And that kind of is what fueled me. Like, I wanted to have nice, cute things that people can afford and not break the bank, you know, and still feel like they look beautiful and, like, they feel like $1 million even though they only spent $20, you know, things like that. So, I've always had this idea. I've just been scared. That's really it. And finally, I was just like, listen, you got a new job. You're already doing your change. Your kid's older. You really don't have any excuse to not pursue your dream. And then, like, just the climate of corporate America. I'm over it. I was over it before all this happened. And I'm just like, you know, I want to be successful on my own right. I want to work for myself. I want to employ people that look like me. I want to have, you know, I want to be able to give people jobs and give back to my community in the way that I want. So that's really, I was just like, you know what? Get a shirt made, see what happens. Got a shirt made, put it on Instagram, just like, oh, I got new shirts, and like sold 15 in like a week. So I was like, okay, well, people like me, like, you know, enough to buy one of my t-shirts. And yeah, I took that money and just put it right back in, and that's kind of what I've been doing since.
That's huge.
We've been going since January, and I just hope to keep growing. Each month I'm trying to do something else. I had a shipment stolen at some point, so I kind of was like discouraged.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was like my biggest shipment to date, and it was like stolen right off my porch. Like I don't even know what happened. And
oh man.
That set me back, and just
Tacoma Norristown got to do better.
Listen, I was on the phone with the post office. I have someone's number up there now. I'm not playing with them no more. You got one package, that's it. And I told myself, you know what? For them to have stolen that, they must have really needed it. Right. You know, like they really needed it. So I just ordered stuff again, and I ended up ordering things that I thought were even better, and it was a success. Sold out real quick. So if you go to my site now, it's a little empty. I have a new stuff coming in, new products. I just dropped the tie-dye stuff. So it's been literally at least 15 years in my head. Probably the last 5 or 6 years, I actually said it out loud for the first couple times. And to this day, when I get an order, like, I just can't believe people spend their money with me. Like, I'm just so thankful. Like, it just doesn't seem real. But yeah, 15 years in the making, and I finally just... I'm like, what do you have to lose, sis?
That's all it takes.
You know? Like,
just
believe in yourself. But I also think that that a lot of that came from, like, age and stability and being in corporate America and seeing how they run businesses and being in management in corporate America and, you know, working and purchasing and logistics and seeing the shipping and the production. And, you know, I think, like, this was the perfect time in my life to actually finally start it. Like, had I started earlier, my kid would have been younger. It would have been, it's a lot, you know? Like, it's like I work 3 jobs now, but, like, it doesn't feel like work because I love it. It's exciting, you know, and I like pretty things. So when I'm shopping for my shop, it's like, oh, you're shopping again, you know? Like, who doesn't love the shop? I don't know. I love the shop. So it's fun, it's scary, it's exciting, it's new. And, you know,
it's
you guys are business owners. It's risky, but, you know, it's worth it.
We were talking about that risk, bro. We were talking about that risk. You know what I mean? But
that's for you.
Yeah, man.
It's not some white man in the
right.
It's
for you.
And that's what I told myself. You got to bet on yourself. Right. You got to bet on yourself. You go to work and work hard for them. You should work twice as hard for yourself.
I mean, that's spot on.
I'm at that point in my life that I feel that, I see that. Going to work is like, God, I could be going to work for myself. And the days that I take off and I use them for, like, my business, I get so much done. Like, I feel so energized and, like, you know, ready to go because it's for me. I see the return. I see my customers happy with what I got. It encourages me to do more. And with this business, I'm able to donate to more. Like, I love to just donate money when I can because money makes everything go. You know, like, if you believe in the cause, give it money because that's what's going to get it off of the ground. And it doesn't have to be a lot, but, you know, that's also what Heliclass has been able to do. I used the month of June, 25% of all my profits for the month I donated to a local nonprofit called Peace Ward here in Norristown. And they're spearheading a lot of the protests and, you know, providing waters and signs and, you know, just permits when needed and things like that. So I donated to that, and, like, I had Heliclass, so I was able to do that, you know, and I'm all about just making Norristown better. So if I can have my business based in Norristown, I know where I want the brick and mortar when it's time. Like, you know, like I want to be here. Like, this is where I'm from, and I want to do what I can to make it, you know, better than it is. You know, I think Norristown's the best, even if we got our problems.
Yeah. But that's
Please.
huge, man. I do like a video blog every day, just sometimes just for myself. And today I did a recording today, and I literally was just saying, the only person in your way is you. You know what I mean? It's time to just get up, just do it. Every dream, every thought that you have has come to you for a purpose. And the only person that's stopping the manifestation of that dream is you. You just got to get up and go on your own 2 feet and believe and trust yourself enough and believe and trust yourself enough that you gave yourself the right thought, that you allowed the universe to give it to you, and just follow yourself. A lot of times we're quick to follow somebody else faster than we are to follow our own thoughts. You know what I mean? So I was just saying that, and you were touching home, and I almost wanted to play it on my phone because you just were saying everything that I was speaking earlier. You just got to get up and just go do it. It's not going to be easy. Whoever said it was going to be easy? Sometimes you got to punch through some walls. Sometimes you just got to get up and push through and press forward. You know what I mean? And it will come to fruition, everything that you want. But it will never happen. It will never happen if you don't take the step of belief for yourself.
Exactly.
If you don't do it for yourself, it will never come to fruition. You know what I mean? And if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail because I fell. I'm not going to fail because somebody else allowed me to fail or somebody else forced me to fail. You know what I mean? Listen, everything that we do, right? Until we have our ultimate day where we go to rest, right? Everything that we do is part of the war. Yes, we can lose as entrepreneurs. We can lose, and we can lose a lot sometimes. But when you lose, that's just a battle. You just lost a battle. That's it. It's not the war. You didn't lose the war. So you lost the battle. Okay, you stop, you reconvene, you regather yourself, you get back up, you brush the dirt off your shoulders, and you keep pushing forward, and you get ready for the next battle. Because as an entrepreneur, you're not going to win every time. You're not going to win every time. And unfortunately, sometimes you lose more than you win. But when you win, it's also gratifying. It means so much more because you worked at it. This is your baby. It's like having a kid.
It's yours.
It's from the muscle.
It's
you know what I mean? So that's huge.
You've earned it. I feel like anytime you earn something, it makes it that much better. Yes. You know, especially from earning it all on your own and doing it your own. Like I have my cousin and my boyfriend, like he makes deliveries with me, but like I told all of them, like I want to do this myself. Like I want this to be me. And then once I master this and it runs and I have, the process of the way I do things and Leland knows I'm a documenter. I want to make sure that before I teach you something that I made it the easiest, the most understanding, that makes the most sense, and that way I can teach you exactly how it needs to be done so that if I'm not doing it, it's not messed up. Right. And like to me, those little things make it even more great when I do get a win because it's like you put all this time and effort into something and you believe in it and it's yours. Like you said, it's your baby. Like everybody wants their baby to do well,
That's huge. That's how I know it. When I'm building websites and I see the end product of it, or I'm at the end of some graphic designs that I've done, I sit back and I'm like, wow, like that really came out cool. Like, okay, all right, I want to do the next one.
Yeah, like the trailer to the show.
It
looks great.
Thank you.
That is nice.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I was like, ooh, this.
Yeah.
Doors were opening, things were moving around.
Yeah.
I was like, is that me?
This is futuristic.
And I tell you,
that's really nice.
When we was wrapping that up, man, I didn't realize that I had actually spent like almost over 10 hours just at the desk.
Oh, yeah.
10 hours straight. I think I got up twice. I got up twice to go to the bathroom. That was it.
Yeah, he FaceTimed me like, hey, I'm done. You all right?
He's like, you all right?
You done what?
What
did you do?
I look a little stressed out. He's like, bro, you look a little stressed out. He said, hey.
Crazy. I'm like,
he said, yeah, that's what he said. He said, hey, bro, just get up and take a walk. He said, hey, just get up and take a walk right quick and come back to it. Like,
yeah.
It probably didn't even feel like 10 hours because you were it's for you. It's part of you. And this is your platform. Like, you're doing work for yourself. It doesn't necessarily feel like work.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. And it didn't, and that is the most important. We were talking about working on as a employee, working the clock. And for me, when I punched in the clock, I literally felt like the walls were closing in on me, and it just wasn't for me. I couldn't move when I needed to move. I couldn't shake when I needed to shake. You know, I'm not that kind of person. I want to ask, can I go to the bathroom? Can I get a 10-minute break? Like I just, it's just something in me that doesn't allow that to happen.
Yeah, I just used to do it, so that's why I'm like I can't. That's the reason will tell you, like, if I don't like something, I'm not doing it. I'm an adult.
Yeah.
Like
you need that in you, because a manager will management will control you as much as you allow them to.
If they know that you're one that's gonna stick up for yourself, they'll leave you alone because they learn from me. Right. That's fine, like if that's the rule, but it's the rule for everybody. And if I see it's not being followed by everybody, I'm hi. Remember when you told me I couldn't do that?
Right.
What's happening?
Right here.
Yeah, hi. I told you I was coming back, guys. Like, what's going on? Like, you have to set the tone with a lot of these people.
Right. So I'm gonna give the last word to the ladies, to Nuke. You know, anything you wanna let us know. How's
what
your
special projects you working on?
You love it. What'd you say?
Yeah. First of all, I think you said what am I working on? So first of all,
special projects?
Thank you for having me, Ty and Leland. Thank you, Leland, for just like Ty for sending good questions. Actually, thank you for just connecting all of us. Just get the connector, Ash.
I try, guys. You know, I try.
This is awesome.
I appreciate it, and I'm grateful because like this time and listening to all of you talk about just like passion projects, entrepreneurship. I think a lot about like, if not now, when? You know what I mean? Like, I'm so glad you both chose to develop this platform and I've taken this time to think that I've been grappling with for like 5 years is, do I start and put effort into like a YouTube channel? Is it a good use of my time to edit videos?
But you're so entertaining, Nuke.
And then thanks, Sam. I sat on this for 5 years, real talk. And so it's called Nuke Sees the World. So if you want to Nuke Sees the World, that's me. I see the world. That's the world behind me. So I film everything right where I'm sitting.
Okay.
And like I've been super blessed to like be able to like. So my family's not from this country. So traveled to like Nigeria. I've traveled to Jamaica. I lived in France for a while. I lived in Cali. I visited NOLA this year before we weren't allowed to travel. I went to Mexico. So I've had the blessing and privilege, because not everyone can travel, to be able to travel. And so ultimately my goal has always been to come back and just be a storyteller, like tell stories about these places I've seen and then literally engage people. Like, how do you see the world? Because it's not a yes or no question. It's like, that is an open-ended question that can go so many ways. And it's just like conversations, and YouTube in and of itself is it's
its own world.
Right.
Yeah, we're still learning.
Yeah,
it's its own thing.
Listen, YouTube scares me.
From crowd engagements to analytics to making sure that you keep your videos engagement. You want to time is innocent. You want to make anyway. I digress. I've been working on building a platform. I can talk about storytelling, where I can talk about wellness and how to, and then I'm layering in a music component. I have a background in the world of like the arts and music and stuff.
Wow.
So I want to.
She can sing, y'all.
Really?
Let her tell you she can.
Whoa! Can we hear something?
I put a little bit of that on the channel, but I want autonomy as an artist, because one thing, and I have very dear friends who are. I was a professional artist. I still am. I'm part of a union as an artist. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I've worked hard in this career path. But my friends who are unionized have been sharing a lot of information about like, we need to support the arts. Like, we need to go harder for the arts. Like, y'all are at home watching Netflix because us union actors were on set for 10 hours a day filming this for you.
Right.
The people who edited behind the scenes, the people who directed it. Like, we need to go harder for the arts. So like, I'm utilizing this platform and allowing it to be a space where I can have artistic autonomy. Because sometimes if you're in the forefront, like if you're the singer, you might be singing your own stuff. You might be singing what has been provided for you, someone else's words. If you're the actor, you're most likely reading a script that someone else might have written. But if you have written it yourself, like, kudos to you. So it's like, a lot of times what I see is that artists are fighting often for their autonomy and fighting for the ability to produce what they want to produce and do roles that accurately represent them. So I said, for like 5 years. I love to travel. Like, I can't imagine my life without traveling because I have a grandpop on one part of the world and a whole bunch of cousins in the other part of the world.
Right.
Why don't I just tell stories about when I went to see these places? So it takes a lot of accountability to oneself to say, all right, I'm going to do this. And so that's what I'm working on. I'm working on Nuke Sees the World. I got a couple of videos up. I'm trying to, before I judge myself, make about 50 videos.
That's what we're doing. Yes.
And say, how have I done? You know what I mean? Yes.
Yep.
You guys know. You guys
Yep.
Yes.
the process as well. And every video or every finished project, start to finish, you're like, wow, I just learned 10 new things.
Yes.
So for me, I'm learning, of course, want to engage people. And if I get one follower, I'm grateful for one. If I get however many millions, I'm going to be millions more grateful. But if I tell one story and one person found that, found that it resonated with them, then I did a good job as someone who wanted to share something.
Yeah.
And so, like, we will see what will go. What is this, July? It's been, what, like 3 months since I started? Because April, I was sitting around. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this. It's been a quarantine month. I'm going to sit right here, talk to my little camera, and try to make it look cute.
It's work.
So
It's work.
Yeah,
We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I just wrote it
Thanks,
down. Yeah.
I'm
I send it
going
to
to
you.
follow
Don't
you.
worry,
Yeah, I'm
I got
excited.
you. I'll send it to you
I'm
right now.
Please send it to me. I'll support. I want to be involved. I want to be involved if I can help. If I can help edit, whatever.
Right, yeah,
like, please. Like, I love it. I want to support. We need to do that.
I do appreciate it because the collaboration factor is like the biggest thing. And also, like, it's not necessarily about perfection. It's about like engagement. And like, some people will never produce anything, never start a podcast, never start a business because they're like, I want it to be perfect. So like that fear of perfection keeps them from ever doing this.
Right.
So it's like, I'm really glad that, you know, we're in this space doing things that are challenging and it might not be perfect, but you know what? It's authentic and here you go. So I appreciate the collaboration factor. It's like, it's a cool part of it.
Yeah, awesome. We're gonna do some more stuff together. I'll tell the world. And I'm thinking of, I look at Elbow Grease Live as YouTube is just a platform that's around right now. But you know, what me and Ty are building is a vision, a company, a movement.
Yes.
And I'm thinking beyond YouTube. You know, that's just what, you know, the platform we're choosing to use. What's now? If YouTube's gone, Elbow Grease will still be alive. Yeah. I challenge anyone that's building anything to think beyond, hey, I'm just a YouTube channel or whatever. But I definitely look forward to seeing both of you guys win and keep winning and share that journey with people. I want to show people. I'm not afraid to show people the behind the scenes of me and Ty working because it's fun, and I don't care if 1 million people like it or just me and my family just kind of look at it. And this is you.
That's the truth, because it is a work in progress. We don't like, okay, for instance, this show here, this is our first time operating with this new software. You know what I mean? So the new software running the back office, and you'll see different little things come in and out on the live, and you'll see like the logo go across the screen or whatever the case may be. But it's a team, and so much we become so independent, we forget the importance of a team. You know what I mean? And that is
Strength
what it's all
numbers.
about. Strength in numbers. You know what I mean? And I say that I tell my daughter to be so independent. Be strong enough in your independence that you respect a team. It seems like, well, Daddy, doesn't that mean two separate things? I said, be strong enough in your independence that you can respect the importance of a team. Because I can stand on my own 2 feet don't mean I can do it by myself. I need people behind me. You need people to support you and push you left to right and cover you down. And I'll do the same for you. You know what I mean? And that's what me and Leland got going on here. And I'm so excited about Elbow Grease, and I really appreciate you guys coming on. You know, it's an old dare term, elbow grease, but it just symbolizes the work that you got to put in to get where you want to go. You know what I mean? I don't care what it is that you do. You know what I mean? The scriptures say a man that don't work a man that don't eat. You know what I mean? Or faith without works is dead. Everywhere you turn, there, you know what I'm saying? That, and it's the truth. Everywhere you turn is little seeds that's dropping that shows that you have to work, you have to be motivated, and you just got to get up and do. And as a people, we need to get up and do for ourselves too. We need to do for self.
Yep. All right. Anyone else, ladies?
No, thank you for having us on. I appreciate it. Thanks for thinking of me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Don't let it be the last time. Yeah, but
It's a good time.
I gotta get up and meet the white
This has
man.
been awesome.
Me too, bro. Me too.
Just summer vacation for teachers.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Bless it all.
Well, listen, I'll be here when y'all get home.
All right, y'all.
All right, thank you.
All right. Thanks again.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. And send us the information so I can spread it. Thank you. I want to know your channel.
Will do.
Absolutely.
Will do. Thank you. I'll send it out.
Please.
All right, cool.
Thanks,
All
y'all.
So, folks, that is another episode of Elbow Grease. Putting it in it, you know what I mean? I am excited, man. This is the second episode, and we have had such great people call in, man. We have really been blessed these last 2 weeks to have such an amazing, and it's been young. It's been young women. It's been women.
Yes.
They're so powerful and so strong, and I am blessed and honored to be able to have spoken with them, and I just look forward to where we're gonna go from here. If this is the second episode, I can only imagine. Only imagine what episode 10 is going to be, 50 or 100 is going to be. It's going to be phenomenal.
It's incredible. I can tell you, at the end of these episodes, I feel almost drained, but in a good way. Like, I also always feel physically tired when I'm taking on a lot of information.
Right.
And I'm also letting out. So it's therapy for me. And in fact, highlighting black women is beautiful, man. Someone asked me, okay, is this a black show or is this a black women? Well, obviously we're both black, so we're going to attract a certain demographic.
Right.
Like, is Nicki Minaj music only for gay dudes? No.
Right.
But if you go to a Nicki Minaj concert, you're going to see a lot of gay dudes there.
Right.
But yeah, Elbow Grease. Yeah. We're choosing to highlight black women. But anyone else, call in. The Zoom information's there. It's going to stay the same with every episode. But for now, we're out.
We're out. Thanks again. Make sure that you click that button down below and subscribe. Don't be the last one. Make sure you tune in for next episode and stay tuned on the Facebook page. If you haven't joined the Facebook page yet, please head over to the Facebook page and join. We're going to be doing a really, really nice giveaway. So we just want to get some more names in the pot. So please just head over and we'll give you all the information that is required to gain access to the giveaway. So again, thank you guys, and we appreciate it.
All right, man.
All right. I'm all right.
I'm out.